This section is Punishment the lead boss baby on moving boss by serious eating. Like, so the link to the video will be the description below. Go and check them out. So let's do this section in 3, 2, 1.
The morning commute on Route 47 seemed normal. The morning commute on Route 47 seemed
What, 47?
normal until a passenger in the back seat suddenly cried out in pain,
Oh, really?
clutching his swollen stomach. Other riders assumed he was having a medical emergency. The bus driver prepared to call for an
Yeah.
ambulance. But when someone lifted the man's shirt to check for injuries, they found something nobody expected. He was pregnant, and the
Oh,
baby wasn't waiting for a hospital.
literally? Wow.
What happened next on that moving bus would become the most dramatic birth story the city had ever witnessed. Michael Stevens was 29 years old, living in Chicago, working as a freelance graphic designer from his small apartment in the northern
Freelance?
suburbs. He had short brown hair, a lean build, and a quiet demeanor that made him easy to overlook in a crowd. Most people who passed him on the street would never give him a second glance, just
Really?
another young professional heading to work or running errands.
Yeah.
But Michael was carrying a secret that weighed heavily on him,
Beepable.
both literally and figuratively. He was 9 months pregnant. For the past year, Michael had been
9 months pregnant. Wow.
living in careful isolation.
Yeah.
He'd stopped taking freelance jobs that required in-person meetings. He wore oversized hoodies and jackets even in the summer heat. He ordered
Really?
groceries online and avoided his neighbors in the hallway. The only people who knew about his pregnancy were his partner, Ryan, and his midwife, a woman who specialized in home births and asked very few questions. Michael was a transgender man. He'd transitioned 6 years ago, living authentically and comfortably in his male identity. He'd never planned on getting pregnant. It happened unexpectedly after he and Ryan decided Michael should pause his hormone therapy temporarily for health reasons. They'd talked about starting a family someday, and when Michael's doctor confirmed that pregnancy was medically possible if he stopped testosterone, they decided to try. It took several months, but eventually, the pregnancy test came back positive. They decided to keep it, but also to keep it completely private. Michael knew the world could be cruel. He knew
Yeah.
people would stare, ask invasive questions,
Yeah.
treat him like a
Literally.
curiosity rather than
Yeah.
a person. So he'd hidden himself away, counting down the days until he could safely deliver at home, away from judging eyes. But fate had different plans. It was a
Really?
Tuesday morning in late September. Ryan had left early for his construction job, kissing Michael
Construction job.
goodbye and reminding him to call if anything felt different. The baby wasn't due for another week, and first babies were usually late, so neither of them worried.
Usually.
Michael had felt restless all morning. The apartment felt too small, too suffocating. He'd
Really?
been cooped up for months, and the anxiety of waiting was eating at him. Against his better judgment, he decided to take the bus downtown to the library,
Bus.
just
The
to get
bus.
out, to
The
feel
bus.
normal for a few hours, to pretend he was still the person he'd been before pregnancy had transformed his body and his life. He put on his baggiest hoodie, a loose jacket over that, and headed to the bus stop 3 blocks from his apartment. The Route 47 bus arrived at 9:15 a.m., half empty with the morning rush already past.
Yeah.
Michael climbed aboard, paid his fare, and found a seat near the back where he could be alone. He pulled his hood up, kept his eyes down, and tried to make himself invisible. The bus pulled away from the curb and merged into traffic. That's when Michael felt it, a sharp, stabbing pain low in his abdomen that took his
Oh.
breath away. He gripped the seat in front of him, waiting for it to pass. Braxton Hicks contractions, he
Yeah.
told himself. False labor. He'd been having them for weeks. But this felt different, stronger, more purposeful. 10 minutes later, another contraction hit, this one so intense that a small sound escaped his lips, something
Oh.
between
Wow.
a gasp and a moan. The elderly woman across the aisle glanced over with concern, but Michael avoided her eyes, breathing slowly until the pain subsided. The contractions kept coming. Every 8 minutes, then every 6 minutes, then every 4. Michael pulled out his phone with shaking hands and tried to call Ryan, but it went straight to voicemail. He was probably on a construction site where the noise made it impossible to hear his phone.
Yeah.
He tried calling his midwife next, but the call wouldn't connect. The bus had entered a tunnel, and he had no signal. Another contraction hit, this one so powerful that Michael doubled over,
Oh,
a cry escaping before he could stop it. Several passengers turned to look now.
oh.
A middle-aged man in a business suit stood up. Hey, are you okay? You need help. Michael tried to wave him off, but another wave of pain crashed through him. This time, he felt something else. Pressure. Intense, undeniable pressure bearing down like his body was splitting in two. He realized with absolute horror what was happening. He was in active labor.
Oh, I get level on the bus.
On a bus, in the middle of morning traffic, with no privacy, no preparation, and no way to stop it. I need.
Mm.
Michael gasped, his voice strained. I need to get to a hospital. Now. The bus driver, a woman in her 50s named Patricia Coleman, heard the commotion through her rearview mirror. Someone having a medical emergency back there? This guy needs help, someone called out. I think he's having a heart attack or something. Patricia immediately began pulling over, reaching for her radio to call for an ambulance. But before she could make the call, Michael cried out again, this time louder, more desperate. A young woman with nursing scrubs, Sarah Martinez, on her way home from a night shift, rushed to Michael's seat. Let me look, I'm a nurse. Sir, can you tell me what's wrong? What hurts? I'm pregnant, Michael managed to say through gritted teeth. The baby's coming. Sarah froze for a second, her eyes widening as she took in Michael's appearance, his masculine features, his beard, his flat chest beneath the hoodie. But her training kicked in immediately. She'd seen enough in the ER to know that explanations could wait. Right now, someone needed help. Okay, Sarah said, her voice calm and professional. Okay, we're going to handle this. How far apart are the contractions? 2 minutes, Michael gasped. Maybe less. I can feel the baby. It's coming now. Sarah turned to the rest of the bus, her voice commanding. I need everyone to either help or give us space. You, she pointed to the man in the business suit. Give me your jacket. You, she pointed to a teenager with headphones. I need bottles of water, anything anyone has. And someone needs to call 911 right now. Patricia stopped the bus on the side of the highway, emergency lights flashing. She grabbed her first aid kit and hurried to the back. Ambulance is on the way, but they're saying 15 minutes minimum. Traffic is backed up from an accident. We
Wow.
don't have 15 minutes,
No.
Sarah said, already helping Michael lie down across the back seats. She gently pulled back his hoodie and jacket, revealing the unmistakable swell of a full-term pregnancy beneath his shirt. A few passengers gasped. Someone whispered to their companion. But Sarah shot them all a look that could freeze water. This person is about to have a baby.
Yeah.
Anyone who has a problem with that can get off the bus right now.
Yeah.
Everyone else, make yourselves useful. Nobody moved to leave. Michael had imagined his baby's birth 1,000 times. In his fantasies, it happened in his apartment with soft music playing, Ryan holding his hand, his midwife guiding him through each stage with calm expertise. It was private, dignified, peaceful. This
Peaceful.
was none of those things.
No.
He was lying across 3 bus seats, his pants being carefully removed by a stranger, surrounded by a dozen people he'd never met, on the side of a busy highway with cars whizzing past just meters away. Tears streamed down his face, from pain, from fear, from the complete loss of the privacy he'd fought so hard to maintain. I can see the baby's head, Sarah announced,
Oh.
her gloved hands. Thank God Patricia's first aid kit had gloves, positioned to catch the infant. Michael, right? That's your name? Michael, you're doing amazing. On the next contraction, I need you to push as hard as you can. The contraction came like a tsunami. Michael bore down with
You can.
everything
You can do it.
he had, feeling
You
his
can do
body
it.
split and stretch in ways he'd never imagined possible. He heard himself screaming but couldn't
You
stop
can
it.
do it.
Good. That's good. Sarah encouraged. The head is crowning.
You can do it.
One more big push, and the head will be out. Patricia knelt beside Michael, holding his hand. She didn't know this young man's story, didn't understand all the complexities of what was happening, but she knew terror when she saw it. You're not alone, she told him firmly. We've got you. Your baby is almost here. The teenager Sarah had commanded earlier appeared with bottles of water. An older woman offered her cardigan to wrap the baby in. The man in the business suit stood guard at the back of the bus, preventing any curious onlookers from getting too close. Complete strangers had become a makeshift birthing team. Another contraction. Another push. Michael felt the baby's head emerge, then the shoulders. One more. Sarah called out. Just one more push. With the
One
last
more.
of his strength, Michael pushed. He felt the baby slide out in a rush of fluid
Oh.
and relief. For a moment, there was silence. And then the most beautiful sound Michael had ever heard filled the bus. His baby was crying. It's a girl, Sarah
Oh,
announced, her own voice choked with emotion as she quickly cleared the infant's airways and rubbed her back to stimulate breathing. You have a daughter, Michael. She's here. She's perfect. Sarah placed the screaming, wiggling baby, still attached by her umbilical cord, onto Michael's chest. The older woman draped her cardigan over them both for warmth. Michael's arms wrapped around his daughter instinctively, and the moment his skin touched hers, she quieted, her tiny eyes trying to focus on his face. Hi, Michael whispered, tears pouring down his cheeks. Hi, baby. I'm your dad. I'm your dad. Around them, the other passengers were crying too. Patricia wiped
oh,
her eyes with the back of her hand. The businessman had to turn away to compose himself. Even the
really?
teenager was sniffling, recording the moment on his phone with shaking hands. It wasn't the birth Michael had planned, but as he
Nope.
held his daughter, feeling her warmth against him,
Oh,
hearing her small breaths, none of that mattered anymore. The ambulance arrived 8 minutes later, finding a scene they'd never quite encountered before. The paramedics took over from Sarah, clamping and cutting the umbilical cord, checking both Michael and the baby for any complications. Both were stable, exhausted, but stable. You delivered a baby on a bus? One of the paramedics said to Sarah with admiration. That's incredible. He did all the work, Sarah replied, nodding toward Michael. I just caught her. As the
yeah.
paramedics prepared to transport Michael and his daughter to the hospital, every single passenger on that bus came forward. The businessman tucked money into the baby's blanket. For diapers,
Oh,
he said gruffly. The older woman insisted Michael keep her cardigan for the baby. The teenager
oh,
showed Michael the video he'd taken. Only if you want it, he said quickly. I can delete it if you want. But I thought, maybe someday she'd want to see how she came into the world. Patricia, the bus driver, squeezed Michael's hand one last time before they loaded him into the ambulance. You're the bravest person I've ever met, she told him. That little girl is lucky to have you. At the
yeah.
hospital, Ryan finally got Michael's messages and came rushing into the maternity
Oh,
ward, still in his work boots and dusty jeans. He found Michael in a recovery room, exhausted and pale, but smiling. In his arms, their daughter slept peacefully. You had the baby, Ryan breathed, tears already falling. You had her without me. Oh, Michael, I'm so sorry I wasn't there. It's okay, Michael said, and surprisingly, he meant it. I wasn't alone. I was surrounded by people who helped me.
on the
Strangers who
bus.
became, I don't
Yeah.
know, angels, maybe. Over the next few days, as Michael recovered and bonded with his daughter, they named her Hope. The
Oh,
story of the bus birth spread. The
bus,
teenager's video went viral,
bus,
though it was
bus.
shot from a respectful distance and focused more on the communal effort than on Michael specifically. News outlets wanted interviews. People wanted to know Michael's secret, but he declined all of
Like a
them.
secret.
His story was his own, to share on his
Yeah.
terms or not at all. What he did do was write a letter to Patricia Coleman and Sarah Martinez, thanking them for their kindness and skill. He also wrote a general thank you that Patricia posted on the bus company's community board,
Bus
addressed
community.
to all the passengers who'd helped that day. You saw someone in need, he wrote, and you
Yeah.
didn't ask questions first. You just helped. You
Yeah.
made the scariest moment of my life into something beautiful. My daughter came
Oh,
into a world where strangers
oh,
became family in an instant. That's
yeah.
the story I'll tell her when she's older. That's what I want her to know about humanity. This extraordinary birth reminds us that sometimes life doesn't wait for perfect circumstances. Babies arrive when they're ready, not when
Yeah.
it's convenient. More importantly, it shows us that compassion doesn't require understanding every detail of someone's situation. Those passengers didn't need to comprehend all the complexities of Michael's identity or his journey to parenthood.
Who?
They just saw someone who needed help, and they
Yeah.
provided it without judgment. That's the kind of humanity we should all aspire to.
Yeah.
So here's my question for you. If you were on that bus, what would you have done? Would you have stepped up to help, or would
Yeah.
you have stayed in your seat? And what does this story teach us about the importance of compassion over curiosity? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And remember, kindness doesn't require understanding everything about someone's story. It just requires seeing their humanity
True.
first.
Yeah. I'll be stand up and up. Yeah. About Penniman delivers baby on moving bus by series eating. The link to the video will be the description below. Go and check them out. And drop a like if you like. And comment below if you want to see more reaction like this one. and subscribe if you're new, and click the bell so you can be notified when blog and when the post in my bye. Wow.